questions and answers session. Am I right?
Yes.
What is the biggest challenges to increasing sales using the theory of constraints? It probably is the fact that if we're looking at what's in the perimeter that we've chosen for today, right? Probably one of the biggest challenges is the thinking out of the box that is inherent in throughput accounting, because traditional cost accounting, as it's called, is omnipresent in all organizations. And the larger the organization, the more difficult to challenge that and get people to think in other ways. It's always fascinating to see that when you use the throughput accounting approach that Etienne showed, where you have the throughput, that's to say the margin, once you've taken away from the sales price all the truly variable costs, right? You get very different numbers from those that you're used to. And it gives you a completely new point of view on your product and shows you lots of opportunities that are interesting, right? But that might mean you choosing a product which looks good according to throughput accounting and is not so good according to the traditional cost accounting approach. And that's going to lead to discussions with financing people or whatever. The truth is, it's not really the finance people that are a problem, or either cost accounting. And we're not suggesting you stop cost accounting. Cost accounting you have to do anyway for your traditional reporting, right? It's how you take decisions based on your cost accounting and throughput accounting that's important. And usually the people in your finance department are truly aware of the limits of your cost accounting when used to determine sales prices. The problem is that people don't understand what's hidden behind the algorithms to determine prices in a traditional way, and they end up making mistakes, right? That's probably the biggest challenge.
I agree, of course, with the fact that accounting often incentivizes behaviors or policies that can hurt the availability of products, as we talked about, or that can distort the true profitability of products with allocating fixed costs on products based on arbitrary criteria. But there's another challenge when we talk about sales, and that's something that we've mentioned, which is that to solve this issue, you need a holistic approach where you need collaboration between sales, supply chain, operations, finance. So it's not just about the sales people. You also need the proper organization to support their efforts. It's about also collaboration and articulating this collaboration between the different departments and setting the right priorities. This is another important challenge.
There's another question here about white space analysis. How does one go about it? And how can we, Maris Consulting, do that? Do we have to do a market analysis and all this sort of stuff? How heavy and how complicated is it? We find it's very easy and quick to do, even if we don't know the business of the client we're working with. We're doing it statistically speaking by looking at what they already sell. And we have calculated the matrix that Etienne showed, where we see that these white spaces, these holes, right, in the matrix. Let me give you a simple example, a simple recent example. We're working for a company that does coloring products, and these coloring are used in, for example, making electric cables, right, for instance, cars. But these companies, normally you'd expect them to buy the collection of colors, the green, the red, the blue, and whatever. So you look at a given client and you see, hey, how come they're ordering all these colors but no yellow? Okay, that's how consultants from Maris Consulting can identify these holes. It's just that looking across similar clients on a given product, it becomes fairly obvious without having deep market knowledge. And when we do that and we look at the history of stuff, there are often easy opportunities, low-hanging fruit that emerge when you look at things in this way. So we're just statistically crunching through what has been sold to whom and pointing out anomalies, right? So how come you're not selling this particular kind of product to that particular client, since he should be like the others in that industry. Then there's another question I saw about the book It's Not Luck. In a few of the presentations by Etienne, we talked about The Goal, of course, which is the most well-known book about the theory of constraints. But It's Not Luck, which is, by the way, sometimes called The Goal 2, is the sequel to The Goal. And it is interesting, especially on these subjects, because it is, among other things, talking about how to sell more and how to sell more by better understanding the client's problems. Okay, developing unrefusable offers, or offers that address the client's problems best, also sometimes called mafia offers. And the slide Etienne presented, he was calling them mafia offers. Okay, do you think that cultural resistance is a key to Yes and no. It's true that some organizations, because of their history, used to live in a market with very few competitors where they had a monopolistic situation on their market, right? Because they were the historical actors in that geography and stuff. And little by little, it's being chipped away at by emerging competitors, and they're suffering. There, the cultural issue is, yes, they need to wake up to the fact that where people used to by default phone them to order stuff, then they have to learn to sell, change the culture and learn to sell, learn what the clients are doing with their products and how to identify the issues and the opportunities to improve their clients' product offering. Okay, it's always difficult because people get the impression that if we're going to be talking about sales and how to increase sales, it's only to do with the sales department, when in fact it's a company-wide issue that involves the supply chain, that involves sales, of course. It involves many different actors. It's a transverse issue. Like all transverse issues, the culture will be exposed with regards to how siloed it is, how good they are working together from one function to another. In particular, large organizations are usually quite weak in that domain. They have thick walls on their silos. Then there's going to be some work to break down those silos. Is that culture or not? I don't know. But breaking down silos is certainly the most challenging things in the work we're doing here. Another question. Identifying bottlenecks in sales. What kind of bottlenecks? Can you give us some examples, please? I remind you, for those who know or not, or how well the theory of constraints, that it's often like Russian dolls. That's to say that if there's a constraint in the sales department, right, it's the whole department. In fact, it's part of the sales department that could be the bottleneck. So watch out. It's a first step, but it's a simplification and not a very useful one to say the constraint is in your sales organization. It's what part. For example, when you're looking at it, if there's several people doing different tasks, right? There are those that are going out hunting, those that are doing the farming, those that are replying to requests for information or requests for quotes and stuff. And it can end up in all sorts of sub parts of your system. Obviously, when it's like that, if it's within sales and then you see what part of your sales organization it is, then you should be doing what we call very fast debottlenecking, stage 1, 2, and 3. I identify, I break the bottleneck, I subordinate, I move to the next one, because it's not logical that there should be a bottleneck, for instance, in a request for quotes and that sort of stuff, right? So it can be in all sorts of areas, but often you're getting rid of the initial bottlenecks that you find because they're in the wrong place, okay? Now, I'll give you another example because it's kind of strange how often it occurs. And again, it's a bad bottleneck. Preparing calls, the hunting part of your sales organization that phones prospects and tries to sell things to them. There's the call itself, and then there's the preparing of the call, right? And that's not necessarily going to be the same people. We're often finding that preparing calls can be a constraint and obviously not the right place for it to be because it doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, there's one question about the goal tree. So you mentioned using the goal tree. How would you recommend we do a tree when we have never done before? Who to include? How to start? You can include Maris Consulting if you wish.
The truth is, with regards to the whole of the logical thinking process, of which the goal tree is one of the elements, right? The analogy I use is a bit like classical music. Everybody can appreciate when listening to classical music the beauty of it, but to be a composer, to be able to compose classical music is a lot more complicated and takes a lot more training, and some people do it better than others. So beware, please, that what is troubling with the goal tree is the end product. The goal tree, if it's properly done, is very seductive and looks very simple, but the amount of training and time and thought that was put into getting to that simple, beautiful answer can be quite a lot of work. So it looks simple at the end, but if you're struggling with your goal trees, don't worry. It's not because you're bad or unintelligent. They are harder than they look.
Maybe just to help a bit, if you want to do a goal tree, usually you will need, of course, to involve different persons related to the strategy or tactics you want to map beforehand. I suppose you will have done some preparation. You already have action plans. Maybe the people who are concerned or who are to be involved, they also have action plans. So this could be useful as a preparatory work. And then you can start to map the different themes and ideas and see how they are related. So agree on the overarching goal, see really the necessary conditions, the main sub-goals, try to map it together. It's difficult to organize such a meeting or workshop if you are more than 3 or 5. because if you're 10, it will be really a mess. What is good is to have done some work beforehand, to have your own version ready to be used as a support, and to work on it with 2-3 people and invite other people to challenge it, and then to build something that is robust and that the people agree on. And don't hesitate to iterate. The first version will not be the best, but it's not a problem.
We offer an online training course on the logical thinking process, of which the Gold Tree is the emblematic key point. That logical thinking process online course is done by the world expert Bill Detmer, William Detmer, the author of the Logical Thinking Process book and so forth. And that's a very popular way of doing some self-learning to learn how to do the logical thinking process in general. So if you're interested in that, have a look at the online course that you'll find on our webpage. There's another question there. What is MTO Plus? We were in a company which was in a process industry with some make-to-order business, right? So the client would want to order 500 kilos of this thing, okay? And that would come to a certain price per kilo. Okay, but of course, in that discussion, the client said that's too expensive. The company would say, oh well, maybe if you buy a ton, right, twice as much, not 500 kilos, but 1,000 kilos, that will make it cheaper per kilo. In this discussion, you could carry on, hence to the MTO Plus. Have a little bit more, right? It can get to be decadent in the sense that the salesperson can even get to the point where they're going to assume that the client's going to come back and buy the other 500 kilos, right? So they sell 500 kilos, but they make a ton, pretending the client is going to come back because that makes it cheaper per kilo. Okay, that's what MTO Plus is. Not a good way to make money, by the way, if you're answering it, because you end up with a lot of dormant inventory in your finished goods warehouse and lots of tedious discussions about what to do with it, right? Because since it was made to order, it was probably not easy or not possible to sell it to somebody else. So you're left with a problem. That's what MTO Plus is. In various forms, we see it a lot, and just be very careful, because making more than what the client wants is not a good way to make money, is it? Don't hesitate to contact us if any of this you find interesting. As I said before, having a sort of defeatist mindset, saying, the market is down, the economy is down, we need to cut costs and cut headcounts and all this sort of stuff. The theory of constraints way doesn't do it that way. It looks at things and says, how could I sell more? Often, very often, you can sell a lot more to the detriment of your competitors, right? But so what? That's life, all right? By increasing your market share. So if the market is down by 20%, you need to increase your market share by X% to compensate. Okay, that's what it's all about. Don't waste too much time thinking about how to reduce costs. Think what is preventing you from increasing your market share and increasing your sales.
As you said, Philippe, it can be challenging, but that's what makes it fun too, with a fresh look and fresh approach that challenges many of the traditional ways of doing things.
To put it in another way, in a more Philip Morris way, if in your organization today you're saying that the sales are down, you're not making enough money and stuff, the sales people are not selling enough, and that's your conclusion, then we need to talk. If you leave it like that, just saying it's the sales department's fault, you're missing 9/10 of the opportunity. Thank you very much. Maybe see you in the next webinar. We'll be doing other webinars on this subject of increasing sales, right? This one was more on business to business. We'll be doing other stuff like that. Thank you for your impressive participation. Visibly, lots of people are very interested in all this. Thank you for your time. That's it from us. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.